We're here to talk about how we create, maintain, utilize, develop companies, brands, marketing strategies, public relations campaigns, whatever the case may be. And I have invited 4 people in here who are doing selfies at the moment, but who are I think, some of the best in the business, particularly locally, if not regionally and or possibly nationally, because they have shown how you can use this stuff to your advantage and make it work. Today we're going to be hearing from Megan Hunt. She's the founder of Princess Lasertron. She's also the co-founder of Hello Holiday, as well as Camp and a bunch of other things that she's going to talk to you about today. Dusty Davidson is sitting right here. He is Big Omaha, Silicon Prairie News, Bright Mix, and now Flywheel. He's going to talk to you about all those different ideas and how they've been working out, what's been going on with them. At the end, we've got Steve Gordon. Steve Gordon is the founder, creator, the man behind The Ridiculous Creative. He has worked with national brands, local brands, created his own, the whole 9 yards, whether it be creating logos for clothing or his own clothing line. So I mean, all these things are going on. And mixed with all of them is Charlie Reed. Charlie Reed is the media relations coordinator here at UNO, and he is also what I would call an aspiring and hell of a good media and cultural critic. He's been published both, or not published, but has been both regionally and nationally at conferences. Oh, you're good. So, first of all, give him a big round of applause.
I think you should also say that Charlie and I met in one of your grad school classes.
I was going to mention that. So my first grad level class ever taught here. So it shows that I might. Yeah. I know cool people. I'm not there cool. So as always, the Twitter thing is going on. The hashtag is JUR1500. I have scribbled in horrible handwriting their handles across here, but I've also got them up in the feed. If you've got questions, comments, if you want to have back-channel conversations with them, and if you want to network and make contact with them, this is a great way to do it. I can guarantee you'll be talking to each other within the next 15 minutes, all via Twitter. It's all humorous. As you see, the devices are all out and they're going strong. So, I always like to start this part, or these conversations out with the first question, which is, how did you get to where you are right now? So tell us basically your story and how you got to where you are. I'm going to start with Dusty since he's right here. So, Dusty.
Hi, everybody. How did I get here? I grew up in Council Bluffs, went to school at Iowa State, got a degree in computer science. At no point during that time did anybody ever say, hey, you should start a company. I went down the fairly traditional path of like get a real job and all that sort of stuff. Worked in that real job for a little while. I describe it as my corporate soul-sucking job, and decided at that point that that I either was going to move to work for a cool company or I was going to start a cool company myself, and decided to stay and start one. So that sort of began a series of companies that I started, and sort of around the idea that work doesn't have to be this place that sucks, and if we can actually enjoy what we do and work on interesting problems with interesting people, that's a pretty neat thing. So through that, have helped a lot of other people start companies as well. I've now, I think, like Adam said, started a handful, and along that way, you know, a lot of it has to do with the brands and the things associated with those companies. But I guess that's what brings me to today. Miss Megan.
Hi guys, I'm Megan. In 2005, I kind of got my entrepreneurial start when I was in college, when I started a company called Princess Lasertron to make dresses and accessories for brides. And so it was in the bridal space, it was a very niche market. And from there, I did that for several years, and I started a co-working space downtown. Worked with a lot of other really cool, unique people. I closed that a couple years ago and started a company called Hello Holiday, which offers financing and distribution to indie fashion designers through our online website, through our online store. And I started that with a partner just about 2 years ago, and that's been my main focus ever since. And I've just been on a long downward spiral from there, which brings me here today.
Hello. Let's see. I think I started where pretty much everyone else is right now. I'm a student at UNO, I got involved in a lot more stuff than I did in high school. I decided that I needed to get involved, so I worked on the Gateway, I worked for Mad Radio, and then I worked at UNO Television and made connections through each of those spaces and learned skills. It ended up proving to be pretty important because when I got done with my undergrad, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? So I decided just to keep going to school. And then when I got done with 2 more years of school and another degree, I'm like, now what am I going to do? I can't keep going to school. Well, I guess I could, but I decided not to because I had done nothing but school since kindergarten. So I kind of just floundered around for a little bit until a couple months after I graduated, I was given the heads up that the university communications office was creating a new position for online and social media to kind of monitor that monitor and craft that presence for UNO, because it didn't really have anything at that point. This is back in 2010. So I took the job, and then after a year of having that job and being in the office, the person who did media relations, so basically just working with newspaper, radio, and TV in the local area, she left for a different position, and so I decided, well, I never took a PR class when I was in school, so sure, I can try my hand at PR. And so then I applied for the job and got it, and I've been doing that ever since, and that's why I'm here.
Steve Gordon. I started out at right out of college, First National Bank. Worked in one of the silos, one of the companies that they owned, doing graphic design, specifically production design. After that, moved on to studios, moved to HDR architecture, where I continued my career as a designer, back to studio life. Then I figured out why I liked moving around. It looked horrible on a resume, but it looked great if you would call yourself a consultant and work with more clients than just your employer. And so after, I want to say, what year is it now? 2014?
It is working, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so
I said that yesterday.
In 2004, I started Ridiculous Creative, in which I vowed to myself I would never be an employer. I would be the only employee at all times, and I would work with other companies as kind of their ad hoc creative director. They can add me onto their staff. I help them out. And when the job is done, I go on to another project. So in that space, I figured out that I'm less of an artist and more of a problem solver. I like finding solutions, whether that's math, whether that's my first 2 years in college as an architecture major. I like to solve for X. And so that fits in the space with design and marketing. Again, I'm less of an artist. I like art. Art's cool, but I'd rather solve a problem for my clients. So that's what brings me here today.
Really quick, any questions before I jump into the list I've got going here? I'm going to be pulling up any work I can find by these 4 folks and putting them on the screen behind me as we progress here, so you can kind of see different things they've been doing. So then I want to jump into kind of a question on a different angle than we've got typically. What do you think the role of social media or mass media in general is in your lives, both professionally and personally? And you can take that any direction you want to go.
Well, my official degree is visual communications. The word is actually in there. And I had a mentor tell me once to stop calling it social media, because all media is social. If there's a sender and a viewer, if there's more than 1 or 2 people receiving that message, it's social. So the moniker social media makes it seem as if it's this other thing when actually it's just a tool for communication. So it's no different than an old school rotary dial telephone, or now our cell phones, or iPads, or television. All media is social. If it's not, then it's not media. You know, that's the very definition, is to reach more than one. So the role that it's played for me is actually to be able to spread a message, to convey a message, to tell a story, which again is what marketing and design is all about for me. And so if it's not telling a story, if it's not trying to convey a message from a sender, from a source to an audience, then there's no purpose for me. And so that's why it's really high on my list of things.
I'm looking through your website and kind of showing people around here, and I know that you have really done a nice job of just staying in contact with people on a daily basis, just kind of talking to people. Here's what I saw, things that catch your eye, stories that catch your eye.
I learned that from Megan, actually. We've known each other forever. And so I saw how she would do it on her Princess Lasertron site. And she was engaging her audience so well. And in my circle of friends, I'm the storyteller. I'm like, why am I not doing that? That's brilliant. I'm always talking constantly. So I loved how she would connect with her audience that way. And so for me, it was just that sort of thing. Convey the message, tell the story. Again, you find a lot of designers that get hunkered down behind their computer, their design, their process. It's such crap. Because if you're not out living a large life, if you're not out having experiences and telling those stories, then again, what's the purpose of all of that? I don't design for other designers. I could care less what other designers think. I need my clients to know my purpose. I need their audience to get their message, and then I'm on to the next project. So for me, telling those stories is kind of like, it's like going to a restaurant and the cook won't eat their own food. That makes no sense. I don't trust someone, if they put a plate in front of me and said, here, try that. I'm like, you try it first. If they won't try it, how are you going to trust that cook? How are you going to trust that chef? So for me, if I'm out telling people to be creative, live a big life, but all I care about is the nuts and bolts of a logo, well then I'm full of crap. So for me, telling those stories is a bit of authenticity, a bit of validation for what I'm trying to do for my clients also.
25 years ago, there's no way I could have the job that I have now. Not just because of technology, but because my career is not something that happens in Omaha, before the age of technology and social media. Because, like what Steve was telling about, when I started my first business, I didn't have a marketing budget. Like, I was in college, I was a college student, I worked at a record store, and that's how a lot of small businesses start, of course, but I just felt like the best way I could make people give a shit about what I was doing was to share the story online through my website, through my blog, through Twitter, which had just happened, through Facebook, which we were on in college. And it's really because of social media that I'm able to do what I do here in Omaha, and I don't have to move to LA or New York, and that's really important to me. I think that's, you can see communities developing capital and business and value for the rest of the sectors in a private community, a public community, because of the internet, basically, and because people can keep their businesses here and grow jobs here. That's why it's important to me. It's fun. I mean, I grew up to have everything I ever wanted. I'm addicted to soda and iPhone, but it's more than that, because I can achieve so much.
We use social media to both sell things, in a traditional advertising way, right? Sort of let's spread the message of why we're good or why we're better, why you should buy from us, and also to build relationships with people at scale. So if we were just a local business, we'd be able to talk to people face to face, and we could do that as many times as we could get people in the door. But as sort of an online business, and I should say we run a couple of ones. We run a web hosting company now called Flywheel, and then we run a conference called Big Omaha. And both of these are like that, where we use social media to build relationships with people online, and authentic relationships, right? We can have conversations with them. We can ask them questions.
You can get to know them.
We can get to know them at scale, nationally or worldwide, in a way that you can't do locally. And we can use it to support our customers if they have problems. And those are things that again, really, really hard to do without those tools. And the really neat thing about it is we can have those conversations, and it's in a sort of a public forum, and the result of that is that other people go and look at that and they say, oh wow, look, this is a human brand. This is a company that cares about their customers and that actually is engaging with them and is actually having conversations with them. That's the kind of company that I want to do business with. And so because it's public in that way, it sort of allows other people to come into the fold. Where if it was just email or if it was just one-way communication like billboard advertising or something like that, you don't have that opportunity. And so I would say that the majority of the stuff that we sell is sold through word of mouth by way of Twitter and Facebook and things like that.
For me, personally, social media is great. I love it. I use mostly Facebook and Twitter, but professionally, social media actually kind of makes me really paranoid, mostly because there's so many things from a branding perspective and from a media relations perspective that can go wrong using social media. The only thing you really need to look at was the US Airways that had the tweet that went out that was very not safe for work, that they had to kind of dial back and do damage control on. And so much of what I do is damage control that I am always half expecting something bad to get posted about UNO or by someone from UNO on social media that then I need to go and handle. So personally, love it. Professionally, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it for that reason.
So two things have come up thus far. One has been authenticity. How do we craft an authentic message, both professionally and personally? And second thing that has come up has been kind of management, message management. So I want to talk about message management first. When you're talking about marketing, public relations, advertising, how do we need to be thinking about message management in a 24/7, not just news cycle, information cycle?
One thing my company, Hello Holiday, does, and this is a very customer-facing company. We deal with lots of customers every day who buy things from our store, and most of them are satisfied, and sometimes they're not. And of course, the way you vent that frustration with a company is always through social media. And so we have the best way that we found to monitor that is just with a Google alert for our company. I keep a couple search queries in my Twitter search. I just have tabs open in my browser that are search hashtags and things for Hello Holiday, HelloHoliday.com. Also on Instagram, I have these in my browser open. And we're just always monitoring what feedback we're getting about our site. And we can handle that by responding really quickly. We can offer discount codes if people are happy with their purchases. We can say, thank you for sharing this with your friends. Please take 15% off your next purchase. We'd love to know what you think. And you can also kind of do the same thing for dissatisfied customers, or you can send them an email privately. We want to be the kind of company that our customers feel like they could be friends with. And so we treat a lot of these PR problems of bad press or whatever as like, what would you say to a friend if you were having a conflict with them? And so sometimes we take it, private, we do a little email or something, and sometimes you just have to ignore it and rest assured that it's gonna move down the feed and eventually no one's gonna see it. And so, you can't please anyone and you just have to triage a little bit what the most important fires to put out are. But I do that every day, and it doesn't really get to me because I run a store, so someone's always pissed. But
We run a hosting company, so
Yeah,
it's always pissed. We work really hard to also be a company that you can be friends with and sort of be this human brand, like I said. But we work really hard when things go negative online to sort of bring those things offline. And so, it's really tempting to get caught up in sort of a dialogue like online, and
you don't want other customers to see that.
You don't want other customers to see that, and you're not going, it's a terrible medium for actually conveying meaning and intent and tone. And so what you find, what we work really hard to do is if somebody's unhappy, or if there's some sort of storm erupting online, we work really hard to get that sort of offline. We will call them, we will email them, we will do whatever it takes to make it not a public thing as quickly as possible. And what's funny is our competitors don't do that, and there's lots of strategies around it. You know, we just don't engage in those. And so if you read through our tweets and you read through our responses to customers, it's overwhelmingly positive by, like, deliberately. Because again, you don't want people to look back, read through that and be like, oh, they got in touch way more with a customer.
See, for me, from an authenticity standpoint, I am my company. I'm the face of it. I'm, you know, the name. And so I don't mind conflict resolution right out in the public because nothing is all positive. That's like saying that we're all winners. Everybody gets a medal at the end of the race. No, that's bullshit. We don't. And so I take a slightly different approach. I'm okay with people seeing conflict resolution because if you see me handling it in public, I'm highly opinionated. But if you see me work through conflict resolution right out there in the public, you have hopefully a different respect for how I communicate. I can disagree with someone. I can have a completely different opinion. I can handle someone who's disgruntled or unhappy with something I've said, and then you see by the end we come to an understanding because it's communication. You can't cover that up. Nothing is all positive. And so if that's what is only ever seen, again, I don't trust that. That's just human nature. If everything was paradise, you would reject it. That's fact. Because none of us exist in that. That's not the human condition. That's not how it works. So for me, I like for you to see that I can handle a conflict and come to an understanding at the end. I like to throw my opinion out there as bold and as I know everything is possible. And then by the end, you might see me say, good point. You're right. Good conversation. I love the banter. I love to talk back and forth. I'm a communicator. If I'm not communicating, then I'm failing. And being a communicator, you're not always going to be right. It's not always going to be sunshine and roses. So for me, authenticity is, I had someone once tell me, you talk like you tweet. Well, thank you. I should hope so.
You do. I never understand either.
Exactly. I would hope that that's how I sound.
It's probably
in
the
public.
opposite, actually.
Right.
I think you tweet like you talk.
Yeah, it's just the other way around. 140 characters, bursts. I should hope that my voice is the same, whatever medium, because again, I go back to the fact that I don't call it social media. It's communication. It's just another venue, just another tool for communication. So I should hope I'm the same person. I should hope it's not all just taglines and good things. I mean, you know, I hope it's at a minimum, the negatives. But the truth is, that's life. Deal with it, you know. So.
From my perspective, it's kind of one and the same. You manage your message by being authentic, by not trying to hide something. One of the worst things any public relations person can do is lie, because you will be found out, and that is 10 times worse than admitting a mistake if there is a mistake to be had. So I think in terms of social media, or even just in terms of media relations, you know, it never hurts people kind of want immediacy anymore. So it's okay to immediately respond and say, you know what, that's a great question. I'm going to try and find out the information for you and get back. And then never respond with something that you don't know, like don't speculate. You can always just say, here's what I know. I'm still working on getting more information. I'll stay in touch, which is kind of how we had to handle the fire on Pacific campus. Was obviously we had no idea of kind of how it started, who was still safe, what the damages were, but that didn't stop people from asking the questions. So we had to say, you know what, that's a great question. We're working on it and we'll get the information to you as soon as we can. And we didn't speculate, we didn't try and put out false information, and so by the end of the day, we got a lot of kudos for keeping people informed and for being responsive to questions and making sure that we had kind of the students and faculty and staff's best interests at heart, and if you genuinely do, then there's no problem with authenticity.
Well, and that speaks to another good point of authenticity is not keeping it real. Like come on. I have almost 33,000 tweets. I guarantee you I have crafted 90,000 and edited down to that 33. Like, oh hell no, you didn't just say that to me. Wait, take a breath, delete, restructure. Authenticity is not always just verbal or communication vomit. It's not keeping it real. I love that skit with Chappelle and keeping it real.
I know
goes
that's
wrong.
what you were thinking
It's the
about.
best. Yeah, keeping it real is such a falsehood. You know, what you're doing at that point, like you said, you're keeping it immediate. You're shooting from the hip. But authenticity doesn't mean you're being, you know, like that. Also, editing doesn't mean you're being fake. It just means that for that conversation, for that bit of communication, for that venue, for that tool, for that moment, you have to craft the right message. And if you're being honest, it's still authentic, you know?
So a comment has come up, well actually before we jump in any further, any questions from the floor about anything we've talked about thus far? Okay. Seeing none and seeing none pop up on Twitter, I'll ask this. There has been a conversation that has popped up, has come up on this panel before, it's come up in classes, it's come up in several ways about identity construction and brand construction. Particularly when you are an entrepreneur, some would argue you are your brand, and the brand is you. And we have seen that conversation and that idea evolve over the last 10 years, and particularly I'd say in the last few years, with this idea of 24/7 information always kind of strewing around. So how would you, if someone came in and said, I want to talk about constructing brand, I want to talk about constructing identity, all those kind of buzzwords, what are your thoughts on it? How would you respond to it?
Well, for me, I need to know their story. I mean, that's exactly what I do. That's my business. And so I need to know where they're coming from. It makes clients a little bit upset sometimes. It puts them on edge when they've been so close to their product or their brand, or if they are their brand, it's their personality, they can't draw a line between it. And I back them off. I'm like, you have to tell me what your story is. Where are you coming from? Or where is your brand coming from? Where is it going? Personify the brand a little bit. Let's talk about hopes, dreams, wants. I don't care, but stop selling me widgets. Because the product that you have is just that. It's a product. That's not your brand. That's not your thing. You know. And so a lot of times it's just finding the story. And oftentimes that story, it's hidden from even the people who think they know it. I had a client who, she came to me, she has this amazing granola. She said, I want to be in every Hy-Vee in 3 years. But she was selling granola, handmade, at a farmer's market with a little Ziploc bag, like seriously, it looked like a dime bag of weed. I'm like, if that's your audience, then you're killing it, you know? But you're not gonna get in a Hy-Vee with dime bags.
Now
of
my
granola.
mother buys that
Exactly.
granola. I know what it is.
She does. But we had to get to her story. Even the name of the business wasn't selected until she sat down and she told me her story. And she said, well, here's the thing. I make this granola one batch at a time. I said, stop. There's your name. It's batch at a time granola. Really? Yes. Okay, keep telling me more. And we had several meetings where I didn't do an ounce of work. I didn't do a logo. I didn't do anything. We just talked. And we got to the crux of what her business, her brand, her hopes, her dreams. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. Fast forward, because we told her story the right way, she got into Hy-Vee in a year. And then she leapfrogged that, and she's in Whole Foods now. All because the story was crafted the right way. And we figured out what was at the core of it, not granola, not a logo. Your logo is, again, I have amazing mentors. Debbie Millman once told me to think of it this way. Your logo is a promise of what lies beneath. Your brand is the story. Your brand is all of that. Your messaging, your motto, your belief system, your production values. All of those things are wrapped up in that. And so it's telling the story the right way. So that's the first thing I would tell anyone is back up, stop selling me a product and tell me the real deal. Be authentic.
I think that that it's kind of trendy right now to be like, I'm not a brand. Like, people aren't brands, fuck brands. But like, I think that the brand is the thing that gives you an emotional connection with a product. And so that's why it's so easy to relate that to people, because with my companies, my partner and I are so forward facing to our customers that we are the brand. You can say that, that's fair to say, but we have an emotional connection with the customers because they feel like they know us as people, just like you would with a brand. Just like why I'm up here drinking 2 Cokes, because I like Coke, because I have an emotional connection to the brand. And it's not a person, it's just about the connection.
For me, it's kind of interesting because UNO, like when I started in my role as the social media person for UNO, UNO was in the process of changing its brand from kind of this bull, like basically not having a brand, not having a recognizable logo. And they would change it every 5 years, and they said, okay, we need something that is going to be it. And so it was interesting watching it go from conception to now seeing a lot of people around town, around campus wearing Maverick stuff, wearing the new bull and the new O. But at the same time, it was also when we made the decision to drop football and wrestling. So there was, for a long time, like it's still going on, that there's still this idea that UNO equals dropping football and wrestling for a lot of people. And it makes people really, really mad. Every time I would talk to my landlord and he would say, oh, so you work at UNO, so it was a real shitty thing you did. I'm like, oh, thanks, I know. But I think it gets to this idea where we are slowly moving away from that concept, because people are coming to see us in like doing different things. So I would say it's really easy to lose people's belief in your brand by doing something that they don't agree with, but you can build up your brand and make people trust you, and by going out and basically just doing things that are good things that people want. You know, we're working really hard to get this idea that UNO is a partner with the Omaha community, and we're not just saying it, we're backing it up with the Community Engagement Center, with service learning projects, with all this other stuff that's going on. And so when people see UNO, they think, oh, it's Omaha's university. It's a university that partners with people in the community, and that's the story we want to get out. So I think it's kind of continuing to add more and more to the story so that when people see the O, they know what it is and what it stands for.
I forgot what the question was.
Well then.
But I will say that it's hard to add much to a discussion.
Brand identity construction.
Right, but it's hard to add much to that discussion. Like Steve nailed it in so many ways. I mean, that's like what he does very clearly. So the only thing I would add is that as we think about brand, we think deeply about the brand being the full experience of interacting with us. And so the conference that we run called Big Omaha is the classic example of that. And we think very, very, very deeply about what is it like to show up at the event? What is it like to be at the event? What's it like to experience the event? What is it like to go away from the event? What do I want to take? What do I feel? Like all of these things.
What's it like to wait in line at lunch? What's it like to go to the bathroom at the event? Like every single thing you guys think about.
Correct. Like down to very, very specific details. I would joke like I personally butt tested every rental chair in town to make sure that we had the most comfortable chairs available.
And which one is that?
It's a chair you can get from Honeyman Rental. It's really nice. I don't know. And now we just rent all of their chairs every year. And And because I've been to conferences that suck, and you sit in a chair that's like this, which is fine for 45 minutes, but is not good for 8 hours. And these are, if we could have the prettiest logo on the planet, and if somebody's sitting in an uncomfortable chair, then what they're going to do is walk away from this conference and say, like, it was okay, but my back hurts, and that detracts from what we want that experience to be.
So you see that attention as an investment in the value of the whole brand.
Yeah, and it really, and Steve would agree with this and talks about this deeply as well. Like, again, it's not just a logo. It's not. It's what is the story? The story of Big Omaha is the experience of being there and the experience of sort of like learning and taking away from that and meeting new people. And so, you know, we think very deeply about that. So it's as much the logo as it is the little funny sayings that are above the toilets, right? I think that to us carries through deeply into sort of everything we do with that event.
So I need to go to this and so I can read the sayings about the toilet.
They're pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're good.
That's a good reason to go to this thing. Okay, pulse check. Who in here is alive? Good.
No, you're not. Y'all lying.
This
Y'all
is
hungry.
the lowest energy class I've ever
Who's
had.
eating lunch already? Ah, they're hungry. See, these two here.
We're at Warwick. We're at
Hurry it up.
Must be. Okay. All right, so then I've got a question that typically will come flying down from this group of students here. I want to do what you do. How the hell do I make that happen?
You don't. Kidding. They're all like, asshole. I don't know. What do people want to do? Like randomly. I don't want to pick.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Like
People will
seriously.
pick you out of the crowd.
If you don't know what you want to do, you are wasting money. You know that.
No, you're not.
You are wasting.
No.
Don't listen to her. You are
No.
wasting it.
Get a degree, have the experience now. Don't waste your parents' money here.
See, she said it.
If my daughter did it, I'd kill her. So.
See. Okay, what do you want to be? Nice. Okay, good.
I want to run the social media for a nonprofit organization.
That's a
Highly
doable
necessary
thing.
too.
Yeah.
Very good. Anybody else? All the
Two
bros-
actual
all the bros
jobs.
are like, don't call me, man. I don't want to do shit. Nice. Okay. So then you do have an idea of what you want to do. You know? So to your question, how can you do, or you want to do what we do? No, you want to do what you want to do. Like, I'm inspired by what other people want. Again, Megan and I have spent so much time together. I can't do what she does, but I draw on a lot of those experiences, a lot of our conversations, and I let that enhance what I want to do. So step one, know what you want to do. Or you don't have to know specifically, but have an idea of something to shoot for. You know, have a goal. You can miss it completely, but be striving for something. That would be step number one for me. Look at me. I'm 40 years old in July. This is what 40 looks like.
Welcome to the club.
Exactly. This is what 40 looks like, and it cracks me up every time when people are, oh my God, I didn't know you were that old. Shut up.
I hate it.
Exactly. I'm like, I did not want to sit in an office all day long. Dusty will talk about this, because what do you call it? Your soul-sucking?
Soul-sucking
Soul-sucking corporate job. I didn't want to sit in an office all day. It doesn't fit me. It's not my thing. So that's not something I aspire to. So even while I was working corporate, I knew that there was something else for me, and I was working toward that. So I can't tell you how to do what I do. Half the time, I don't even know how I do this. It's a myth to me too. But know that you want something more. Know that you want to aim towards something, or be constantly reevaluating. Does this feel right? Can I function here? Can I be successful here? If not, move on.
When I was in college, I wanted to teach English in Germany, and I did it for a couple months. And when I started my first business, it was just kind of like, this is a thing I'm good at. I know I can make money doing it. I'm just going to do this for a little while until I get my degree, and I moved to Germany, and I start working for Berlitz, and that's what I thought my life was going to be. And it's like, I didn't really start knowing what I wanted to be. I just said yes to a lot of really great opportunities. And you know, when my first bride asked me to make her bouquet, I remember who it was, and I was living in a house with 6 guys. I was sharing like a twin bed with somebody, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I made that bouquet on that bed. There was scraps everywhere. And I sent it to her, and I was in business. And this was in 2005. And so, you know, I just kept saying yes to things that sounded fun because I didn't realize I was building a career as I was building it. And that's what I think you should do, is just do the things that sound fun to you in, as career opportunities come up.
I dug on like corporate America a lot, and part of it, or the main reason, was that it was not fulfilling for me, in that I wasn't surrounded by people that were equally passionate about what they did like I was. And so, you know, I talk a lot, you know, I've started my own company, Megan started her own company, Steve started his own company.
I work for UNO.
You work for UNO. I don't know that, you know, I talk to a lot of people about becoming entrepreneurs, and at the same time, I know that it's not for everyone. And I think the higher level message is that, you know, like Steve said, my mantra in many ways is life's too short to sit in your cube and hate your job. Mm-hmm. And
it's easy to say that when you don't have bills to pay too.
Correct. But know that there's an entire world of options available, and and it's not necessarily about starting something. It's about, you know, controlling your own destiny.
Time.
Like
what you do with your time.
Crazy as that sounds. You know, for me, it's about optimizing for happiness. It's saying, like, what are the things that make me happy? Like, I enjoy software. Like, I'm a geek. That's what I do. If you enjoy marketing, then go do the marketing thing at agencies. They're very cool agencies to work at. Or start your own. It doesn't matter. It's less, for me, it's less about sort of the mechanics about whether you have a job or whether you work, or whether you work for somebody else or whether you work for yourself, and more about the idea that if you got hit by a bus today, will you have sort of like, are you doing the thing that you kind of are most happy doing?
Well, and the thing is, when you have bills to pay, and you will have bills to pay, you can make money doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. I worked 3 mall jobs in telemarketing. I was balling, and I loved it. I had money, but it had nothing to do with my career. A job and a career are 2 different things. I will mortgage everything against what I do right now. I will go broke doing this happily. The same can't be said for working a job. I always joke that I'm gainfully unemployed right now. Because for me, I will literally do this until I cannot anymore, because I love what I do. It energizes me, it helps other people, helps their companies, helps their dreams, helps their goals. If it's just about making money, I can go find that. That's no problem. It really isn't if you hustle. So for me, it's not about paying bills. That's a scapegoat that people use to keep them in that soul-sucking job out of guilt. You can go make money.
I want to say, as an entrepreneur, I totally respect the day job, but you have 24 hours in a day. You should sleep at least 8 of them. You could go work at your day job for 8 of them. And then you've got 8 more, you know, you can do whatever you want with. And that's when you can pursue your happiness and build your passion and, yeah, solve for X.
As someone with a day job,
Day job sucks.
This guy with the day job.
Although, I know. For me though, what's so interesting about kind of what I do is I didn't set out to do it. Like, I kind of fell into it. But the reason that I was able to take the PR job without having a lick of PR experience was because I had skills that I could apply
With a
to
Z. Skills.
with a Z. And so I could apply them to this job, and I think writing and communication skills are going to at least get your foot in the door no matter where you want to go. And then no one knows kind of how to do something straight out of the box. So do, internships, job shadow, learn from people that you know that are doing the thing that you want to do, because you'll learn from their mistakes, or you'll pick up skills that you didn't know that you were even good at by doing that. had written news stories for the school newspaper, but it was really easy to translate that into writing news releases. I never practiced how to write news releases, but I knew that I could do it because I had done this other thing before. And in terms of, what Megan mentioned about utilizing your time, I've used those skills not just for the day job, but I use it for writing papers. If I want to kind of feed my academic side a little bit.
Which is fun for you.
It is. And I've also used it as volunteer time to help out like Omaha Beer Week for writing their news releases and getting them in touch with media, because it's a thing that I know how to do and they needed someone to help do it. And I love beer. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll help these guys out. And who knows if I make those connections, and that was kind of the third thing, is making those connections, because who knows, 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the line, someone who works for a brewery or a distributor or something that might need some help, then I could look into that. That's always an option. So I think keeping options open and just having a core set of skills that you can translate into any of those is really helpful as well.
I was kind of thinking, I just emailed Charlie this morning. Did you see the one I sent you?
I don't think so.
Just on your Gmail account.
Oh, then yeah, probably not.
So speaking of doing things that you love to do, tweet came across, do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, and the question is true. And I tweeted back, absolutely, it's true. Because I brought, the idea is that, given that we both like beer, that I brew, and I'm assuming you're going to get into it at some point in your life. Or
That's when I have time.
when you have time, yeah. We're going to try and find ways to write about that and do our thing, which is do research on beer culture and research on brewing culture, which is this crazy subculture that's developing right now, and is trying to find a way to make itself a little more I would say, culture friendly. Like, people love the idea that your neighbor brews beer. Why? Because they can come over and basically hit your tap every day of the week, right? It's like, okay, great, I have some more of my beer, that's fine. But how do you turn it into, what's the culture around it? So I'm going to work to try to understand what's going on around that. That's how I brand myself, being a culture critic, right? So you can brand yourself any way you want to, or you can say, this is what makes me happy, this is what I enjoy doing, and you can make it your job. So I want to throw that in there because we can do what we love, and yes, you can get a paycheck for it, but don't do just something for a paycheck, because that's the wrong end to take into it. Because we're getting a little bit close on time, I'm going to throw the softball out so I can watch Steve get on a soapbox.
Oh no. This one.
Because I love this one. And the reason I love this question is because when I moved here in 2008, when I interviewed for the job here in 2008, I flew in and I saw a skyline and I cried. Literally. Because when I flew in from living for 3 years in Fargo, North Dakota, which doesn't have a skyline, it has a building.
Yeah, you're right.
There were two choices. Like, there's a skyline here.
I'm moving here.
And because I was like,
This bustling metropolis.
I'm applying for a job at University of Nebraska Omaha. I literally was like, I don't know what this school is. I don't know what's going on. And I landed at this. It was kind of cool. Drove through the town.
And you had that cup with you.
And I've had this cup with me since 1994. So it hasn't always had water in it. Anyway, so
How many people
We're going streaking on the quad.
so
streaking on the quad?
Yeah, that's
Oh
what
my
that
God,
cup did to
Grandpa.
him.
maybe 6 years later, I can say that this town is one of the best music scenes I've ever seen, one of the best art scenes I've ever seen, one of the best, like, do your own thing scenes I've ever seen. And that's awesome. So the question I'm going to throw out to all of you, here's my softball. Why Omaha? Why not East Coast? Why not West Coast? Atlanta's #3 media market in the country. Why not Atlanta? Why not Chicago? Why Omaha? Do you want to start?
You love doing this to me.
Because I love your answer.
As you know, I start getting so amped up. Okay, talking about brand, it is no accident that I wore a shirt today with all the streets that meant something to me growing up in North Omaha. I did that on purpose, right? So why Omaha? My typical answer starts out with why the hell not? I've lived other places. I've lived in New York. Go Brooklyn. Love the BK. I've spent a lot of time in LA. Traveled around everywhere. New York, the city that never sleeps, bullshit. That city goes to sleep. You can't find a slice. You can't catch a cab. The subways slow down. Chicago's the same way. I've wandered the streets of Chicago late at night in this bustling metropolis, and everybody's like, take your ass home. They have more per capita. It's larger area. Grass is always greener when you're looking at something. That's human nature, I get it. But there's absolutely no reason that you can't do that here in Omaha. After living in those places, after seeing, I think it clicked for me when I heard someone in LA complain about LA. I was like, are you kidding me? So people in one of the biggest, best, most fashionable, hustle, bustle, Hollywood, the cities in the world, and they hate it like most people talk crap about Omaha. Let me take my ass home. Because I can do it from here. I joke that we're the bullseye. Friends of mine in New York call it that. Like, what's going on in the bullseye? Because we're smack dab in the middle of the country. Everybody can get to us, we can get to everybody. So why Omaha? Because you can start here. You can do your thing here, like you said. It's a little bit easier to get up and going. And the way that media, the way that communication is structured now, you can be somebody, you can be a big name. And then have them have the question mark behind your name. You're from where? Omaha. Omaha? Yeah, Omaha. That was my goal, to come back home and make something of myself here in my hometown, so that when people thought about Omaha, they thought about me. And then I dare them to talk shit about Omaha. Because the truth is, it has no, where you're at it has a little bit of bearing, sure. It's easier to, or it's more glamorous if you're a designer in New York, but you're also the grunt. You're not moving up the ladder.
You're also a tiny fish in a giant sea.
Huge pond.
I wouldn't be speaking at a college in New York.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
It's great. Yeah.
And a friend of mine, it's not even just in the creative profession. It's not even in entrepreneurship. It's not just that. A friend of mine was a lawyer. She got her degree in Boston. She could not get a job in New York. She moved home to Omaha, immediately got courtroom experience, and then moved back to New York, where she was a high-paid lawyer because she had courtroom experience. They didn't say courtroom experience where? They said courtroom experience. So because she could make a name for herself in a smaller market, still a viable market, almost 1 million in our metro area, but everybody thinks we're hayseeds walking around in a field somewhere.
Whatever, check our millionaire status. Bonjour.
Per capita? Exactly. Not me. I'm just
Not
saying.
us.
Struggling. Yeah, and then I always
But you
get
could date a millionaire.
I always get the
Probably more
question, there's black people in Omaha? Nah, just me, man.
Steve Gordon.
I'm holding it down. Y'all gotta go. I'm glad y'all getting education. You gotta get up out
I'm
of
just
here.
glad I can
I
say
ain't
I
sharing my
have
time.
It's really nice.
Nah, I mean, I could go on forever about why Omaha, but again, I flip it on its head, and why not? You can do everything you need to do here. You can go other places. The funny thing about Omaha is there's other cities, big cities, who are proud of what we produce. If I hear about Warren Buffett one more damn time, we can go Omaha Steaks. You can go back to the music scene. Bright Eyes, 311, Saddle Creek Records. Oh my God, I get it. I grow up listening to this stuff every single day, and we don't become proud of it until somebody else claims our thing. Then we're like a kid with a toy like mine.
Yeah.
Why not be like that from the very beginning? It makes no sense. We're a very right now the culture of our city is very Me Too. I call it Mr. Me Too. We like it when someone else does. We talk good about it when someone else does. We have an internal PR problem that makes no sense at all. And so, from my standpoint, I start here. If I do something cool, y'all can piggyback on it. Where you from? Omaha. I love that.
Our thoughts, additions.
I think that everybody universally hates where they're from. Like every young person growing up, I certainly did, was like wanted to be anywhere but here. And that's, I think, for a number of reasons. One reason is that you sort of, I think, grow up and you don't have an appreciation for actually what's going on, or an awareness that it is. And so we've actually spent a lot of time and effort sort of really helping to educate on that, and that but both culturally as well as on the job front. So, you know, I wanted to go to California to get a job because Silicon Valley is where you get cool jobs, and none of that could exist here. And the reality is if you sort of like peel back the onion, that does exist here. It's just not, you know, prevalent. It's just not widely known. And so, you know, I think as I look at it, it's, you know, why here? We just sort of like ended up here, and now only after sort of ending up here by happenstance, realizing that it's you know, it's where it's for the same reasons as Steve now. It's where we choose to be. You can make an impact. You can do all these things. But I didn't realize that until after I sort of like begrudgingly stayed. And so, you know, in large part it's understanding and knowing that there's just a ton of neat stuff going on. It also, like Steve said, I mean, we travel a great deal, and you know, I spend a good amount of time other places, and you know, in many ways can scratch various itches doing that. Metropolitan itch, or a cultural itch, or a beach itch, which sounds bad. And still come back here, where family is, and where you can get things done, and where you can be sitting in the front of a room, these sorts of things. And so,
I always tell a story, like when I was living in New York, I had some friends who would, you know, I'd want to get together. I'd call them up, or I'd text them, say, hey,
Oh, yeah.
you know, let's go out. What day is it? That was the first response. Like, what do you mean with that? Okay, it's Thursday. Oh, I don't come above the 50s until Saturday. So for those of you who don't know, New York is very neighborhood centric. Above the 50s in Manhattan means literally they would not take a train above 50th Street until it was Saturday when they started to move around the city. So while we're here complaining that there's nothing to do, they're not doing anything in these other cities. Stop watching TV thinking that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You can't afford your apartment, you're broke, which is why they don't go out or go above the 50s. I don't go to the Lower East Side until it's Saturday night. Oh, and then the Bridge and Tunnel crowd is there. So they come over, so it's packed. I'll see you next week. No, you won't, because you don't come above the 50s until Thursday. So I'll see you next month. I know two siblings who live in New York City, blocks away from each other, and they didn't see each other for a month. This is blood relatives. Blocks away, didn't see each other. The myth is so bizarre that moving to the big city, you can make it, you're gonna do big things. Yeah, maybe. I'd rather go with a name already attached. If I moved out to New York now, I'd be just fine, because I spent time in a place where I can make a name for myself.
One I think is interesting is if you go to any of the major cities and you watch their newscasts, their 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news, it looks exactly the same as it looks in Omaha. So I mean, that's kind of a good analogy. Is it just depends on the atmosphere that you want, where you want to hang out. I mean, Omaha, I mean, I could run off the list of top 10 lists that Omaha makes each year, but it just comes down to, do you want the big city vibe? Do you want a small rural town? Do you want, you know, to be within driving distance of certain things? Or do you want to take the public transportation? Because if you want to take public transportation, Omaha is definitely not the place for you. So it just...
Now.
No, that's one thing I do hate about it.
So it's just one of those things where you kind of need to figure out what you want and take the time now to go out and explore and take drives to Kansas City, Minneapolis. They're all, you know, within reasonable driving distance, and see if it works for you. See if you like the atmosphere, and then make your name here, kind of get some skills here, and then try and venture out in some of those areas.
And I'm very Omaha-centric, but I'm not against other towns. I mean, hopefully you heard me say I've lived other places. And with that money that I save living here, I take frequent trips to other places, like Dusty said, to scratch that itch. And so...
I couldn't live here if I couldn't travel.
Right. That's part of it. You know, when you live in a town by which you can get to other places, then you get to other places. That's not running away from Omaha. That's part of what it offers with a central location.
It's in the dang world.
Exactly. with a central location, you can get just about anywhere you want. So I'm definitely not begrudging those who want to live in other places. Just don't run away from here thinking that you're going to find that big thing somewhere else just because, again, it's what you saw on TV or somebody's tweet or somebody's Instagram. They're cool and all, but I mean, if you run down my Instagram, I can make Omaha look real cool. The right angle and a filter, we look great.
Question up here, please.
Okay, this is kind of getting away from that. I know that you work alone, correct? And do you have a partner? And do you, I'm sorry, I was late.
Yeah.
How did you go about finding like somebody to partner with, especially in like an emerging, like an entrepreneurial setting? Like if there's not a, if you're creating something, it's hard to have the conversation, like seeking out with people when something isn't developed yet. And so finding the people that share your interest or your passion, I mean, that's an area where I come up against, I guess.
When I started, it was just me for about 4 years, and then I ended up hiring 4 people from my first business. I had known my business partner for years, but she and I didn't hook up together until 2 years ago. I've always thought I was a lone wolf, like I didn't want to work with people. I don't work well with people. But what that means is I actually just have a very specific skill set, and I need someone who can be more customer facing, because that's not really what I'm good at. And so when she and I hooked up, that was a product of maybe 10 years of networking, of being in the business community here in Omaha, of telling people about what I'm doing and meeting people who can become mentors, who can become first employees, first hires. It's not, I didn't go to a job bank or anything and look through resumes and be like, this person doesn't sound like an asshole. Okay, maybe them, you know.
Like an organic, like,
Yeah, definitely just
evolution of that,
so much of that is just social.
I go out a lot. I have fun. I go meet people. It sounds silly, but you have to. You know, there's a reason why businessmen go to the bar or the golf course. Because
Gross.
Don't you say gross. Golf courses are awesome.
And for you, how was that?
I have 3 business partners in 3 different ventures, and I have worked with I met them through working with them. And this is a really important point, which is the reason why I think the partnerships work is because it's sort of a known quantity, like we know each other and we've worked in tight situations together, and it's often said that a partnership's like a marriage, and it is because money's involved and long hours or whatever is involved, and all these things.
It's not always equal.
And so the problem with meeting somebody in a social environment and then going into business with them is that while you might sort of enjoy each other in that capacity, it's not necessarily the best means by which to sort of find somebody who you're going to spend the majority of your time with into the future. And so, I look at it and say, schools like that, like working in close proximity with people in school is great. In fact, I often say that this is the time in your life where you're surrounded by the most smart people. It only goes downhill from here. And so it's a great opportunity to sort of meet folks and then work in close proximity with them. Outside of that, I think the work environment is that as well. And while it can work outside of that, it's just you sort of tread very lightly with partnerships because I've seen them just sort of like melt down for that very reason.
Well,
I ditched my husband, but I'm going to be with my business partner forever.
Right. And what Dustin said is very important is in a social capacity, if that's all you do. I mean, but Megan and I go out and have drinks. We used to have late night pancakes all the time. She's a businesswoman, but she's my friend. See, me, I'm different.
And we work on a lot of projects together too, but not like all the time.
Yeah, it's not a mandatory forced thing. And the way that I'm different, the reason I say social is very important because business breakdowns and all of that, I need to know I'm not gonna punch you in your face if you're messing up, if you're just not a good person. I could care less about the business relationship. If you're a shitty person, I don't wanna deal with you. That's just the fact. That's why social is very important to me in terms of I need to know that Dusty, I guarantee you he gets along with his business partners, at least to enough of a degree that there is a social component. There is an attachment that he doesn't go into work hating them. He can trust them, and trust isn't always a line item for money. it's a personal thing. Like Megan said, it's like a marriage. And
It's
it-
more than that.
Exactly. And so you go into that
Marriage
like
is so disposable.
the funny the funny thing is, because I work for myself, everyone thinks that I'm the only one. No, I rely on other people even more than that. They say, oh, you're your own boss. I have about 60 bosses a year. Every client I get is a new boss. So if I don't know how to work with people socially, I'm lost. You know, I can handle business. I can handle numbers. I can get things in an actuarial sense and get it to line up and balance a checkbook and all those business things. But if I can't look you in your eye across that table doing negotiations and trust the person that you are, I don't want to deal with you. Again, I can make money doing anything. I have to know that I trust you, enjoy your company. You know, by the end of every project, I've got a new friend. Sounds cheesy, it's true. I wanna support the clients I work with. I wanna support the businesses that I work with and the colleagues that I have. And so for me, the social component is not something to be pushed aside very lightly.
We have about a minute. Oh, one more question. Yep.
What's your 5 words of advice?
Advice in 5 words.
I don't ever give just 5 words, can't you tell?
Make the most of school.
Just,
Did you come up with 5
I
words?
like it. Just effing do it.
Yeah. That's it. I'm done. I got
You gotta
nothing
hyphenate
for
it,
that.
but.
Cool. I want to thank you all for giving the opportunity and hanging out with them. Give them a round of applause, please.